G'day guys, welcome back to the workshop with another How to Forge. Today I'm forging a kitchen knife, just a standard hidden tang kitchen knife from a bar of 1075. Now, like with every start we do, we start with the point. This stock is about 3/8 of an inch thick, so it's a little thicker than I would normally use, but we'll work that down in a second. I'm going to keep it straight. We're going to smooth it out because this was actually forged out of a very odd shaped piece of metal. I forged it out on the press before we got to bar stock size. And here I'm switching between hammers just to use all of the different hammers that I own. The first one was a French Crossbeam by Seth Wood. This is a straight peen by Charming Hollow Forge, Hans at Charming Hollow Forge. And I'm just using the edge of the anvil, like I usually do in these How to Forges, to forge in a nice sharp tip, keeping everything nice and even thickness along the whole bar, and making sure that I've got that nice transition down to the point. And I don't want a shorter point, I don't want a really long point either. I'm trying to go for a mid-level Gyuto style kitchen knife with this one. Now the Gyuto tends to be seen as like the all-rounder style Japanese knife. Think Sabatier, the French Sabatier chef's knife. But either way, now that I've got the bar down to section and I have a tip on it, I'm going to start working in a distal taper. Now in this case I want it to distally taper from about 1/3 of the way from where the stock is welded on. And down to the tip, and the tip is going to be about 2 millimeters thick once the distal taper is finished. In this case I'm going to be very heavily drawing the heel of the blade in order to create height for the blade, so that my fingers can clear when I'm chopping things. So it looks like I might be drawing out the bevels here right now, but what I'm using is actually a straight peen hammer. This is a double-sided straight peen Sawyer's hammer that I got given by a friend of mine, to then draw down this material to a distal taper. The straight peen is really useful for this, or a diagonal peen is also great for drawing length. In this case, this was the first time I'd ever swung this hammer, and it swung really well. And I'm just doing overlapping blows, focusing my hits towards the tip. And once I'd done that with the straight peen, I come back in with my English cutler's hammer to dress all of those peen marks out. Once the distal taper is established, I'm going to start working down the lateral taper, the main taper of the blade, in width. I don't want to do too much of the tapering, but what I'm really trying to do is dress in that point, go from a sharp point transition to like a smooth round point transition. And here I'm putting in a little bit of pre-curve over the edge of the anvil. This is not how I'd normally do pre-curve, because it does put a little bit of chop marks in the edge, but I didn't want a lot of pre-curve on this blank, so that was enough for what I needed to do. And now we're going to set down for the ricasso. So this isn't going to be a traditional Japanese style kitchen knife where the tang goes straight into the handle. In this case I'm going to have a ricasso, which is going to set the handle width, and then we'll knock down a tang from the ricasso from there. The reason I'm doing this at this stage rather than after forging in the bevels is because if I do the bevels first, there's a good chance that I will create pinching and cupping around the plunge cut area, and that would cause an issue in the final grinding. You might not actually be able to grind it out, so it's better to actually set it down at this point and establish that flat ricasso first before we then move into actually drawing down the bevel. I'm trying to make sure that I keep the ricasso relatively parallel with itself, because if it's tapered, that can cause an issue with fit up later. It's not too bad if it's tapered with the distal taper of the blade, but if it tapers backwards, it can be an issue. Now that the ricasso is established, I'm using the really light crosspeen, froggy crosspeen that I made a while back to draw down the bevels. And what I want to do, as I said, is create a lot of height in the heel, and this is going to give us a lot of lift when it comes to actually using the knife. And so I'll only really crosspeen out this section of the blade and a little bit further forward with a heavier crosspeen, but I wanted to establish that cross really well. I wanted to establish that heel really well and draw that material out. In this case, I'm switched to the crosspeen straight peen 4-pounder that I have, that I got given, as I said before. And I'm again just drawing out that material. And I'm drawing down to quite thin. I'm drawing down to about a 1/16 of an inch. You know, about 2 millimeters edge thickness, maybe a little less. I wouldn't normally advise that for most builds, but in this case I was trying to see if I could forge as close to finish as I possibly could. And in kitchen knives you can forge a little thinner than you normally would on other builds. So as you can see here, I've switched to my English cutler's hammer and I'm planishing out those crosspeen marks and just continuing the bevels down the blade. With the flat face of the hammer, I'm not doing as much drawing of the edge, so I'm not going to create as much width. I am going to increase the length slightly. And that's what I kind of want to do for the end of the blade. It will still widen, that's fine, but the majority of the width I wanted in the heel. Like when I'm forging the blades on any of the knives that I make, I start with heavy forging in the very high heats, and then as I get down to the darker colors, the dull reds, the cherry reds, I'm going to lighten off on my hammer blows. And that's mostly to planish and also so that I don't fracture the material. In this case, I've started to brush the material, and the reason for that is because I don't want to be driving scale into the thin material that I'm making on the edge of the blade. When you're getting down to 2 millimeters and 1 millimeter thick material that you're forging on, any scale that's pressed into that is almost impossible to grind out. So it's important at this stage to keep the blade incredibly clean. As we get to the tip here, you're going to see the blade straighten out a little bit and actually start to curve backwards because that pre-curve wasn't quite enough, but that's fine because we'll be able to correct that in a second. This isn't the final beveling pass. I always do one rough beveling pass first to get the general shape, then I true up the profile, and then I come back and finalize the bevels and planish everything out, making everything nice and smooth. Here we're going to whack forge the spine, do a bit of spinal tap to get that blade nice and straight along its line, and then I'm going to knock the point back down because I want that edge to be more in line with the tip, so I want that tip to be drooped down a little bit more than in line with the spine. When doing this, it's natural for the edge to curl up, so all we do is flatten it out every couple of hits. And eventually we get that nice gyuto shape that I was looking for in the beginning. You'll also notice that I've started to add water to the anvil face, doing a form of forging called kitai, or wet forging. And the reason for this is because you're actually blowing off scale with every hit, especially at the higher heats. There you go, just splash some water on the anvil. And that will mean that I drive less scale into the surface of the material. Now, it might look like there's more scale in the material, but that's because the water is cooling that scale and making it more visible against the actual steel, the red background of the steel. And you can see those little steam explosions as I hit the steel. Kitai is especially good in the final stages of planishing, with those light blows at those low heats. You'll notice that there's very little scale left on the blade, and the finish is incredibly smooth. Once I've established that, I'm going to then do that set down for the tang. And I'm not setting down really hard, and I'm setting down with fuller rather than anything like a butcher or anything like that. I don't want to create sharp corners. So this fullering tool, I'm just doing some light taps, and then I'm going to flatten it out, making sure to keep my knuckles well clear of the, of the guillotine tool, because that would hurt. But as you can see, I just created 2 little notches, and now I'm going to cut the material off the stock. The reason I do this is because it's easier to then put the tang stock into the forge without having to pass the entire knife through, and I can draw out on the anvil a lot easier by holding it in tongs. And you'll see that my Bladesmith tongs are there for me to break that off. You don't want to cut all the way through on a hardy cut. Doesn't matter whether your hot cut hardy is hardened or not, you'll damage your hammer and the hardy if you cut all the way through. So now I'm just using the edge of my hammer, and I'm actually tilting the knife downwards slightly to create a reverse taper towards the ricasso to cut the edge of the tang slot in. And that's actually going to deepen those tang notches a little bit, but that's to set a shoulder so that I can then draw out the rest of the material. And I did this with my English cutlass hammer, but now I'm going to switch over to my diagonal peen hammer to then draw out that tang stock. This is actually a diagonal peen hammer that was made for me by Bob at B&B Forge. It's really handy. It's a very nice, light 2-pound hammer. I could swing it all day. And I'm just going to draw this out as far as I can. I'm not actually looking to make a full through tang or anything like that, but what I'm really looking to do is make that shoulder area the thickest part of the tang in both length and width. So, you know, in both dimensions, I want the thickness to be the highest at the shoulder. So however long this tang ends up coming out is the amount I need to draw it out in order to achieve that. In some events I may want to draw out the tang to do a full through tang, but in this case I'm looking for a hidden tang construction, so if the tang ended up too long, then I would just cut some off. As is the case in a lot of drawing out processes, it does get out of square a little bit and go rhombus, and so you'll notice me turning it on the corner and knocking the corner in to then square it up again to make it easier to draw out properly. And now that I'm pretty close to my final dimension, I'm just using light passes to planish everything, make everything as flat and true as possible. I was using this as a little bit of an experiment to see how well my hammer-eye coordination has lasted, given that I haven't done a lot of forging recently. And this was a really good practice piece for me. And that's the final profile. I did a little bit of straightening off camera, but yeah, that is the final piece. And now, as you can see, when you're pointing it towards the anvil, the tang is actually pointing upwards into the sky, and that's helpful for clearing your knuckles when cutting. You can see that nice distal taper. Everything's flat, no twists, and the edge is an even thickness the whole width of the blade, the whole length of the blade, about 1.5 mm, 2 millimeters. I hope you enjoyed this video. It's good to be back filming these how to forges again. If you'd like to support the channel, please hit that like button and make sure to subscribe to the channel and hit that notification icon to be notified of when I upload new videos. If you want to join this list of beautiful patrons that help this channel continue growing, then you can hit the link in the description or at the end tag of this video. I would like to say a huge thank you to my patrons. They're constant support of me, and their unwavering support has been amazingly helpful in these last few months, and I would like to say a thank you to them all. With that being said, thank you very much for watching. Stay safe. Don't do anything I wouldn't do, and if you do, make sure to catch it on camera and send it to me. And I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.